picking up with where we left off, picking up a little bit later. Not much, but a little bit. We're going to get through quite a bit more today. We left off at the end of, what was that? Chapter 2 with Taran and Gwydion talking, and Taran, I guess we were picking up with stuff. Taran makes the comment that he doesn't know who he is. Page 21. I don't know who my parents were. Dalbin has never told me. I suppose I don't even know who I am. Gwydion says that's something we must all discover for ourselves. And then he kind of goes on and says, makes me wonder, is there a destiny laid on me that an assistant pig keeper should help me in my quest? Okay. What's his quest? Gwydion's quest. Kill the Horn King to ultimately defeat Iran. So, that destiny, fate, whatever you want to call it, has made it so that I should have kind of the lowest of the low help me achieve this grand noble quest. Or, he turns it around, is it perhaps the other way around? That I, the high and mighty Gwydion, should help Taran on his quest. Now, does Taran have a quote-unquote quest per se? To get Hinwin. I mean, it's to find his lost pig. That's the initial quest. What's his real quest? Is it to be a hero? Kind of what he wants. But that's not the real quest. The real quest is something he just addressed. Who am I? It's to find out who he is. And finding out who he is not just finding out who his parents are. Okay? Finding out who he is really means what? Okay? This is the question everybody is confronted with at some point in their lives. Sometimes it's when you're young, like Taran is. Sometimes it's when you're really, really old. Okay? How many of you had to read, you were forced in high school, to read Thoreau's Walden? Any of you? Only a couple. Well, in Walden, Henry David Thoreau, American poet, essayist, writer, says he went to the woods to live life deliberately because he wanted to know that when he died, he had really lived. He had, in his words, sucked all the marrow out of life so that when he died, he wouldn't be on his deathbed and say, I should have done X, Y, or Z. Okay? What he's really getting at there is that he wants to know, he wants to prove his life had purpose. His life had meaning of some sort. Okay? That's Tarans Quest. The who I am really means, why am I here? What am I supposed to do? At some point in your lives, some of you may have a quote-unquote midlife crisis. Okay? For some people, that midlife crisis happens in their teens. For some of them, it happens in their 20s. For some of them, it happens in their teens and 20s and 30s and 40s. That is, every few years, they kind of are confronted by everything around them, and they're, what am I doing? I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels. Well, what happens when you're in a car and you're just spinning your wheels? You're not what? You're not moving. You're not doing anything. Because movement implies what? Progress. You're moving forward. Okay? All of us move forward in life. None of us move backwards. I'm 57, or I will be tomorrow. I'm not going to be 55. Happy early birthday. Thank you. Ever again. I'll never be 54. I'll never be 44. I'll never be 34, but I will be 60, 67, if I don't die before then, that movement tends to be forward. And in that forward movement, we are looking for a couple of things in terms of this idea of purpose. Most people want that when they die, the world to know they lived. They want to leave a mark of some kind. Okay? So how do you do that? Find what your purpose is? What was Hitler's purpose? I mean, did he find a purpose in life? Yeah, twisted, evil. Did Stalin find a purpose? Yeah. Just imagine if Hitler had been accepted to the art school that he applied to. And if you've ever seen any of Hitler's paintings, the guy was a phenomenal artist. Phenomenal. But he was not accepted. What if he had been accepted? Would we have 6 million dead Jews? 100 million, roughly, people dead from the Second World War? Probably not. Okay? So there's, you could say maybe purpose thwarted. Because you have people who go throughout their lives and they feel like they are stuck in a dead-end job. Does this equal job, career? What do, or what often happens when two people who've never met meet each other? How does that conversation go? Hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm so-and-so. And almost the very next thing is, I'm a mechanic, pilot, teacher, doctor, lawyer, etc. Notice, I equal, really? Do you equal your occupation? Or is the occupation merely something you do? Is the occupation the purpose? Well, that's a question Alexander is going to raise in the course of all 5 novels. Okay? And our other 2 novelists are kind of going to deal with that a little bit as well too. Why? Because of the time periods in which they're writing. Okay? Late 50s and 60s for Alexander, and very late 90s, and then the first part of the 21st century for Nix and Stroud. Okay. Well, what kind of characterizes Western, let's say at least, partially, ideology? This idea that you are what you do. And I think all 3 are trying to say, whoa, back up. You're not necessarily what you do. Okay? So, they go on in chapter 3, we get introduced to Gurgi, and we hear Gwydion talk about, Henwin used to be owned by a farmer, and Henwin got captured by Iran until a great warrior rescued her. Call, page 24. Call, son of Calfrur. Call? Nah, can't be. Tarans amazed. A hero? But he's bald. Bald people can't be heroes, In order to be a hero, you have to be like Samson from the Old Testament. Long, flowing locks, Yeah, the same. You've got curious notions about heroes. I've never known courage to be judged by the length of a man's hair, or for that matter, whether he has any hair at all. Why does Taran have such difficulty imagining Call as a hero? It's not because he's bald. That's just the first stupid thing that leaps out of his mouth. Again, he's only like 11 or 12. He's really young. So why can't he imagine Call as a hero? Louder? He grew up with him. What does he see Call do day in and day out? Is he a smith? He can do smithying. He's a pig keeper. He's a farmer. Well, farmers aren't heroes. Everybody knows that. Heroes are what? Warriors. Heroes are guys who put on suits, not three-piece, but spandex, Often they have capes, unless you're in the Incredibles, and capes are stupid. And they do what? I mean, think of all the quote-unquote heroes in blockbuster major films. What word do we apply before the hero? Superheroes. Why? They're not everyday, ordinary heroes. So what is an everyday, ordinary hero? We tend to say, and I don't know that they say this as much in Europe, but in the United States, who are our everyday, ordinary heroes?
People who save lives.
People who save lives, which tend to be cops, firemen, firewomen, who else? Doctors. When was the last time you heard a doctor on an operating table saving somebody's life as being described as a hero? When was the last time you read a newspaper article or saw something in the news about a doctor going about his daily job or her daily job and that being considered heroic? Doesn't happen. Who else? Military. Okay? I'm not dissing first responders or anybody in the military. I'm not belittling that at all. Okay? But when did merely being a fireman, a cop, a soldier become heroic? I think you can date it. 9/11. 9/11. Prior to 9/11, you weren't hearing cops being described as heroes. You weren't hearing firemen being described as heroes. But guess what? Prior to 9/11, firemen still ran into burning buildings and pulled out people. Cops still went into situations most people wouldn't go into. But why wasn't it heroic? Because it didn't have this national kind of significance like 9/11 did. When 9/11 happened and the Twin Towers came down in New York, that was like, those, whatever the number was, 280 some, firemen. It wasn't just 280 some firemen. Those firemen were representatives of all firemen. And all those cops who died became representatives of all cops. And we all know, not everybody who signs up and goes to work for a fire department is a nice, good person. And not everybody who signs up and goes to work for the police department is a nice, good person. You've got bad apples in every group. Professors among them, okay? So why is that heroic? Or why is that any more heroic than somebody else who does what their job requires of them? Because what cops and firemen are doing there, it's what they signed up for, right? Is that more heroic? Think of the Parkland shooting. Last year, 2018, in South Florida. Who are the most heroic people in Parkland, Florida on that day? Was it the cops who took position outside? Is it the cops who wanted to go in and yet they couldn't because their superiors told them not to? Or was it like the football coach who ran from the field into the building to try to stop it? Or was it like the 15 and 16-year-old boys who used their bodies to block the door so that the shooter couldn't get in and were shot multiple times? Yeah, they were described as heroes. Why? What does a hero really do? Puts him or herself, go ahead. Do they put their lives before others? Yeah, they put others before their own lives. Okay, why was Call a hero? What, our world, what would Iran be? And what would Anuvan, his kingdom, be? equivalent to? Well, if we want to talk real world history, it'd be like Hitler in Berlin or Berchtesgaden. Okay? It'd be like Stalin in Moscow. It'd be like Mao in Beijing. If we want to go a little mythological, if you want, it'd be like Satan in hell. And what did Call do? Went and knocked on the doors of hell to rescue a pig. He put his life on the line for what? A pig. Not even a person. Okay, it's a magical pig, you know. It can prophesy and stuff. So, does Taran ever see that side of Call? What does he see? He sees Call digging potatoes or carrots, or he's going to refer to something later on. Okay, so they keep talking, and they meet up with Gurgi, and Taran doesn't like Gurgi. Page 29. Gurgi's hungry. Taran says, "What a disgusting beast. What a nasty, vicious Gwydion. He's not bad at heart." Notice, at heart. When Taran says he's a nasty, vicious, what's he mean? The way he looks, the outside, the externals. Gwydion says, yeah, but at heart he's good. Okay? He would love to be wicked and terrifying, but he can't quite manage it. What is Gurgi? Are we ever told? Is he human? Nope. Is he animal? No. He's kind of like in between. He'd like to be human, but he has these animal qualities. Okay? Maybe he's symbolic in that sense. Maybe he represents people who could be human if they really tried, but they're just so bestial. They're so governed by their gut, you know, their passions, if you want. Anyways, Gurgi tells them that he has seen Henwin. Taran, was he telling the truth? I think he was. The Horned King is ridden to Caer Dallben, Gwydion says. Taran, he burned it. Do they know that he burned it? No. Taran assumes that. Okay? Gwydion, nah, he didn't burn it. Dallben is an old fox. A beetle could not creep into Caer Dallben without his knowledge. What does Taran know about Dallben? He's just the old guy who makes him do meaningless, menial tasks. Okay? What does he not know about Dallben? The other 99%. Okay? So, Chapter 4, we meet up. They keep going. We see the Gwythaints, page 32. They have to cross a river. We find out Taran can't swim. And Taran says, bottom of that page. When Gwydion says, why didn't you tell me you couldn't swim before? Well, I was sure I could learn. First time. I was sure I could learn. It'd be like sitting in a car for the very first time with a set of keys and, well, I could figure out how to do this. Let's say not an automatic. Stick shift. Okay? You must learn to answer for your own folly. As for Melangar, she is wiser now than you can ever hope to become. My horse is wiser than you are, kid. Even should you live to be a man, which seems more and more unlikely. Why does he say it seems unlikely that Taran will grow to be a man? I agree with almost everything you said, but I want you to replace one word. Are they stupid decisions? What's another word to describe the decisions he makes?
Unsafe.
Unsafe?
Childish.
Not childish per se.
Careless.
Careless. You're getting closer. They're rash. He doesn't think about them. Okay? That is, they're not stupid, because stupidity would imply he He looks at his options and he chooses the really poor one. He doesn't even look, he just what? He just leaps. He just jumps. Okay? That's why Gwydion's like, kid, if you don't slow down, man, you're going to get whacked. Okay? So, they see the Gwythaints, and we find out what they are. These are like flesh-eating birds. Giant claws, sharp razor-like beaks. Okay? And Gwydion explains a little about them, how they serve Iran. Top of 34. They are Iran's spies and messengers, the eyes of Anuvan they are called. No one stays long hidden from them. We're lucky they are only scouting, not on a blood hunt. Okay? And he says, now Iran's going to have news of us before the day's out. Taran, if only they hadn't seen us. What kind of phrase is, if only they hadn't seen us? That if is conditional. But what does it really mean? If wishes were dollars, okay? The reality is they have seen us. That's why Gwydion says there's no use regretting what has happened. Or, as, I'm going to get it mixed up, one of the two sidekicks in The Lion King says to the other one, Timon says it to Pumbaa. The meerkat says it to the warthog. You got to do what with your past? Put it behind you. Okay? Why?
Is this in the past?
What's done is done. You can't change it. You can never change it. You could try. You could say, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Forget I said that. You tell someone you love, I hate your guts. Those words, what? They just resonate like a bell. Boom. Okay? You can't take them back. You can't drown them out with something else. You can't replace them with something else. Similarly, actions can't be taken back. Can you really screw up early in life and then try to change and do everything, quote unquote, right from that point on? Yes, you can. Okay? Does that mean you never screwed up early on in life? No, it doesn't. We're going to see in a later book a guy, a character, somewhat major character, who's lived a pretty good life, who's done good things, and he makes one major screw up just before he dies. I mean, hook, line, and sinker. He really, really falls. And yet, Gwydion will say, we shouldn't hold that one thing against him. He kind of says, let's take a balance of his life. Here's his early life, all the good stuff he did. Here's this one really bad thing. But the really bad thing doesn't outweigh all the really good stuff. Okay? One way or another, Iran would have learned of us. So, no use regretting what has happened. And then he says, you know what, Taran? It was going to happen anyways. He was going to find out. Okay? The Gwythaints are not his only servants. In other words, there are other things out there. There are other birds, maybe, other animals, maybe. Okay? I think they must be the worst. That is, man-eating birds, those would be pretty bad, right? Just watch Hitchcock's The Birds sometime. And Gwydion says, no. Those are not the worst. What are the worst? Top of the next page. The Cauldron born. Now, the cauldron that he's describing, the black cauldron of the next book, that cauldron is a thing from Celtic myth. That is, it really exists in Celtic myth. Alexander did not create that. Okay? And that cauldron is a thing that you can put dead people into. Dig up a body, throw it in, and after a little while, the body will come back out. And the body will be alive, kind of, with this big difference. It can't be killed. That is, you run a sword through it, and it'll pull the sword out and keep going. You lop its head off, it'll keep going. Okay? The big difference is that that body, as Gwydion says on page 35, the Cauldron born are utterly without mercy or pity. For Oran has worked still greater evil upon them. He has destroyed their remembrance of themselves as living men. They have no memory of tears or laughter, of sorrow or loving kindness. Among all Oran's deeds, this is one of the cruelest. Notice the first two things he uses to describe kind of men or women, real men or women, before they go into the cauldron. Because you can put living people in the cauldron also. Okay. What two characteristics? They have mercy and they have pity. Okay. Not love, hope, the Christian virtues, faith, love, hope, and all those other things. Mercy or pity. They've forgotten, he says, who they are. The remembrance, as he puts it, of themselves as living men. They become robots, automatons. Their whole goal is kill, 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 kill. Okay? So, they go on. We're going to skip a bunch again. Pages 37, 38. They're asleep. And Taran wakes up because Melangar, Gwydion's horse, whinnies. Taran sees something. He sees something. He thinks something is getting ready to attack Gwydion. And he goes after it. Gwydion stops them. And Taran says, bottom of page 37, save your own life next time. I should have known a great war leader needs no help from an assistant pig keeper. Showing us what on Taran's part? Okay. What else? I mean, that's an example of his childishness. Okay. Gwydion. Unlike assistant pig keepers, I scorn the help of no man. In other words, no, I'll take your help. And you should know better than to jump into thorn bushes without first making sure what you will find. See, when Taran jumped into the thorn bush, he didn't know it was Gurgi. Okay? Because if he knew it was Gurgi, would he have jumped into the thorn bush? No. So what did he think he was doing? Saving Gwydion. He thought there was something else there, something dangerous. Save your anger for a better purpose. And then he pauses. And Gwydion's like, whoa, 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 stop. You really did think my life was in danger. And now what does Gwydion understand about Taran? What does Taran want to be from the beginning of the book? He wants to be a hero. Taran has just showed he is heroic. Why? He didn't think about his own life. He was willing to throw away his life to preserve Gwydion's life. Well, if I had known it was only that stupid, silly Gurgi, the fact is you didn't. That's the important thing. You really thought there was something dangerous that was going to harm me. So I shall take the intention for the deed. That is, you intended to save my life. I'm going to take what you intended to do for actually doing it. From here on out, Taran, I'm going to act like you saved my life. This shows us what on Gwydion's part? Maturity. What else? Think about it this way. And I'm going to use these examples intentionally. A parent receives a portrait from a 3-year-old. Look, Mommy, this is you. It's not Rembrandt. It's not Michelangelo. It's not Leonardo da Vinci. It's bleh. And maybe it's even, one small eye, one big eye, The intention is what? The intention is not, I'm going to capture mom perfectly. What's the intention? I want to make mom happy. What's the actual deed? The actual accomplishment? It's pretty ugly. Okay? But the parent does what? Oh, it's beautiful. Okay? That's honoring what the other person has attempted to do, even though the other person didn't necessarily succeed. Okay? So Gwydion is showing his honor here, his integrity by doing this. They keep talking. We're going to skip a bunch. And we go on to chapter 5, the broken sword. They get captured and they get taken off to the Spiral Castle. We're skipping a bunch. Gwydion gets imprisoned. Taran gets imprisoned. And while Taran is imprisoned, page 51, he meets a little girl. Okay? And she drops this glowing ball-like thing. And Taran stoops, picks it up. She's looking down at him, looking through the grating over the cell he's in. And she asks, if you could throw that to me. He says, little girl, I'm not a little girl. I've just been telling you. I've just been and finished telling you. Are you slow-witted? I'm sorry. And throughout their relationship, which is going to continue the next 4 books, she talks to him this way. Are you really as stupid as you sound? I'm sorry. It must be a shame to be so stupid. It's terrible to be dull and stupid. What's your name? Taran says what his name is. Okay. He gives her the ball back eventually. And she says there's somebody else here too. Who does Taran assume that is? Gwydion. Okay. But we find out later on it's not. Let's skip a little bit. Go on to 54 and 55. He's still in prison. He's still in the cell, Spiral Castle. And he and Eilonwy are still talking. She's gone off to talk to Oghrin and meanwhile and come back. And Taran asks her, bottom of 54, is Oghrin your mother? Now he knows very little about Oghrin, other than that she is a witch of some sort, a sorceress. Okay? She says, certainly not. I am Eilonwy, daughter of Angarad, daughter of Rhaegat, daughter of blah, 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 blah. My ancestors, she says, are the sea people. I am of the blood of Lyr, half-speech, the Sea King. This is Celtic mythology. If you've ever heard of Shakespeare's King Lear, it's the same Lear. It's just Shakespeare makes him king of land, but in some versions of the myth, Lear is a kind of an underwater king, if you want. Okay? So, she goes on and tells Taran she lives there now, but, I'm not going to explain everything to you because you're so stupid, etc., etc. They keep talking, and Taran says, bottom of 56, top of 57. Can I join him, that is my companion, in one of the passageways? She goes, I don't know why you'd want to do that. I mean, I could just go and let him out and have him wait for you outside the castle. She's got free reign, free passage, so to speak. I don't know why you want to complicate things. It's bad enough for 2 people crawling about, but with 3, well, can't you possibly find your way by yourself? Taran, okay, free my companion first. I only hope he's well enough to move, and I'll find some means of carrying him. And Taran goes, well, he's got a horse. I don't know what's been done with her. It would be in the stable. So, he and Elanwi go on, chapter 7, and bottom of page 60, middle of page 60, she tells him, your companion is free. I've set him free. And they keep going on, and Tarans says, but Akron will know you let us escape. Bottom of page 60. No, she won't. She'll think I'm still locked up. And if she doesn't know I can get out, she can't know I was here. But it's very thoughtful of you to say that. It shows a kind heart. So now notice there, Elanwi is saying something about Taran that we haven't necessarily heard directly before. She says, oh, that's very sweet of you. You were concerned about my welfare, thinking that Akron's going to know I've been helping you. I think that's so much more important than being clever. In other words, you mean well. You're stupid, but you mean well. As long as you mean well, that's what's good. And she keeps chattering away. Now, where are they? They're moving beneath the foundations of the castle, so to speak. Okay? Like down in the cellars. And they keep talking, and she says, you must be a very important pig keeper, because Akron wouldn't have gone to all that trouble. And he's kind of like, well, it's not really me, but... They come to a tomb. Let's see here. Bottom of 63, top of 64. Taran tells her, go on without me, warn my companion, the castle is alerted. That is, warn the person who was brought here with me that the castle has been alerted, that his alarms are going off, so that he can flee. Well, what do you intend on doing? She asks. You can't just sit there like a fly in a jug. That isn't going to help matters at all. 64. It doesn't make any difference about me. Now, what is Taran really saying there? It's not about me. I'm not important. For him, what's important? Two things. Gwydion, Hinwen. Gwydion's got to find Hinwen. Okay? Doesn't matter what happens to me. So, they keep going on. She calls them names. She apologizes. Chapter 8, we get the Barrow. A barrow's a grave. All right? And we're going to skip up on page 72. She mentions having taken a sword off this dead guy's grave. And Taran says, middle of 72, what sword? Oof, she gasped. I feel as if I had all my bones taken apart and put together wrong. The sword. You said you needed weapons, didn't you? And you took one, so I thought I might as well too. The castle implodes. Okay? Thank you for saving my life, said Elanwi. For an assistant pig keeper, I must say you were quite courageous. Now, what does that mean? For an assistant pig keeper, you were quite courageous. What is she implying? It's like for an elementary school teacher. I mean, you're really brave. You don't expect elementary school teachers to be brave, right? Or, for a McDonald's fry cook, you're really courageous. Who do we expect to be courageous? Heroes out on the front lines. People, slinging bullets and such. It's wonderful when people surprise you that way. Taran wonders what happened to Akron, etc., etc. They go on. They go to the grove. They see a figure, a white horse. Taran calls out Gwydion. And we get chapter 9, and we find out it's not Gwydion. It's a guy named, we get out of here at 10:05, so 12 minutes. It's a guy named Fluder Flam, okay? Fluder Flam. And Tarans like, you're not Gwydion. I never said I was. They keep talking. Taran kind of blames Eilonwy for letting him think it was Gwydion. Did Taran ever tell her what his companion's name was? No, he didn't. Did he ever describe his companion? No, he didn't. Okay? She just assumed this was his companion. So, middle of 78, Taran says, I got to go back to the castle. There may be hope Gwydion still lives. Okay? And Fflewddur says, I'll come with you. Eilonwy, there's not much left of it to storm. They reach the summit of the hill, and they see what's left of the castle, and there's nothing. I mean, it's just flattened. Taran crawls over the ruins. He doesn't find Gwydion's body. Okay. So they leave. And Taran says, let's see here. No, let's skip all that. Chapter 10. Let's go on. Let's skip a bit. Eilonwy shows them the sword that she picked up, pages 84 and 85. And she says at the top of 85, there's a symbol of power on the scabbard. I've seen this mark before. Well, there's another inscription too, but it's in the old writing. Well, I do wish Ockran had finished teaching it to me. That is, I'd started learning it. Okay. And she, page 86, she starts to read it. And Fflewddur says, oh, here's probably what it says. It probably says something like, beware my wrath, And in 86, she goes, no, it's nothing like that. Here's kind of what it says. It says, Dyrnwyn first. I don't know whether that's the name of the sword or the name of the king. Why? Because Alexander is aware that there have been, at the time that he writes this, that there had been a number of swords discovered in Northern Europe, parts of England, Scandinavian countries, that have names written on them. One was discovered in the mid-30s, I believe. It was actually a short sword, in the Thames River. And it essentially says, Fred had me made. The name isn't Fred, it's something else like that. Okay? But it's got inscribed in runes. Fred had me made. That is, I was made for Fred. Okay? So she's wondering, is Dyrnwyn the name of the sword, like Excalibur, or did Dyrnwyn have me made for him? So, she reads, page 86, Draw Dyrnwyn, only thou of royal blood, to rule, to strike thee. She says, I can't read it very well. The letters are faint. They're worn. Okay. Taran, let me unsheath it. That is, let me pull the sword out of its sheath. Because the words are on the sheath. She says, no, you can't. It had a symbol of power. I'm bound by it. That's elementary. That is very simple stuff here. Only someone with the right power can pull the sword out. Yeah, but Ockran can't bind you. It's not Ockran that binds me. Okay? It says only royal blood. It doesn't mention anything about pig keepers. Because obviously if you're a pig keeper, that definitely means what? You can't be royal. Because pig keepers, people who are royal aren't pig keepers. Where do royal people live? Castles. They don't live in pigsties. Okay? How can you tell I haven't royal blood? Now that's an important question. Can she look at his blood and say, look, let's type it. Not royal, royal. Taran asked, I wasn't born an assistant pig keeper. But one is born royal, isn't one? Prince Charles was born royal. Prince William, Charles's eldest, was born royal. All of Prince William's kids were born royal. First name, Markle. Harry's wife. Meghan Markle will never be royal. She wasn't born it. Kate Middleton will never actually be royal. She'll be queen, but not really royal. She does have a smidgen, if you want, of royal blood in her. I mean, they had to kind of prove that, okay? You either are born that way or you're not. He said, oh, for all you know, my father might have been a king. She's kind of going, pig keeper, man. You're a pig keeper. It happens all the time in the Book of Three. She says, yeah, but I never heard of the Book of Three. But in the first place, I don't think it's good enough to be a king's son or even a king himself. Royal blood is just a way of translating. In the old writing, it doesn't mean only having royal relatives. Anybody can have those. It meant, she goes, oh, I don't know. She can't find the word for it. And it seems to me if you have it, you don't need to wonder whether you have it. It will turn out the word isn't actually royal. It's another word. Taran, oh, so I get what you mean. I don't have it. Whatever the it is, that's not me. I didn't mean to offend you. I mean, for an assistant pig keeper, you're quite remarkable. In fact, I think you're the nicest person I've ever met in my life. It's just, I can't let you have the sword. That's that. Okay? So, they'll keep it. Now, page 89, we find a little bit more out about Fluter. He's a bard. What does a bard do? Goes around with a harp and sings songs, recounts tales and stories. What else is he? He's a king. He's a king of a northern kingdom. Okay, it's a really small kingdom. It's not a powerful one, but he's still a king. And what's peculiar about his harp? Well, every now and then, strings break. And it's not because he's playing it so much. It's whenever he tells a really outlandish lie, or, as he describes it, embellishes the truth. Bang! In other words, it's a magical harp that does what? Or is intended to do what? Keep him from lying. Okay? So, page 90, Fluter says, you know, and as a king, you get into the habit. Get into the habit of what? Let's use it. Yeah, we can use Trump. Let's use Trump as an example. If Trump gets a quote-unquote little victory, or some little good news, whatever it is, what does he tend to do? Lets everybody know about it. What else? He tweets it. But what does he say about it? It's the greatest ever. These are the greatest economic numbers ever. The country's never had a better economy. Most of you guys are too young. I remember the economy in the mid to late 80s. It was a hell of a lot better than it is now. Okay? Why? Because we had the economy in the late 70s and the very early 80s, that was a whole lot worse than what Obama inherited or anything like that. Okay? So, Trump takes little things and really embellishes them. You know, largest ever inauguration, viewing, etc. Well, he took not only the people that were there, but everybody watching on TV and nobody else had ever looked at that before. Okay? So, in one sense, little asterisk, not lying, but huge embellishment. When you're a king, who's gonna say no? See, they don't have CNN and MSNBC here to tell Fluter, no, you can't. He's got the harp. So whenever he wildly embellishes, it bing. Okay? So, they go on, and what does Taran tell them he's got to do? Page 91. I shall journey to Cardathel myself. Now where's Cardathel? That's where the High King lives. I do not question your valor, he says to Fluter, but the danger is too great. I ask no one else to face it in my stead. That is, nobody else is going to die because of me. Fluter, well, when are you going to seek your pig? Because who's got the pig? The Horned King, who's taking it to Iran. That's not what he's got to go tell Math, the High King, his son is dead. Gwydion. My own quest must be given up. What's his own quest? The pig. If it's possible, after the first task is done, then I'll return to it. Until then, I serve only Gwydion. It was I who cost him his life, and it is justice for me to do what I believe he would have done. In other words, I've got to, let's use a phrase that was popular a few years ago. Rather than WWJD, what would Jesus do? WWGD, what would Gwydion do? And he's saying, I'm going to do what Gwydion would do. What's the problem? He's not a prince. So why is he doing it? Can one act princely without being a prince? Yes, one can. Okay, we'll stop there and we'll pick up. We'll probably actually finish on Wednesday. Remember, no class on Monday. No quiz.